der Tender Spirits Podcast. Wir vertreiben ausgewählte Flaschen für Restaurants, Bars und Highballer. Und hier geht es um die Menschen und Orte hinter diesen Flaschen. Wo kommen sie her? Und, ziemlich wichtig, wer macht sie warum auf? Herzlich willkommen zu, das ist jetzt eine gute Frage, zweiten Episode, würde ich sagen. Die erste war die Nullnummer, also wie auch immer. Ich sage jetzt mal, es ist die zweite Episode. Also herzlich willkommen zur zweiten Episode des Tender Spirits Podcast. Wir gehen gleich all in. Ich möchte Ihnen heute vorstellen die Hepple 5, allerdings nur 4. Und es ist auch kompliziert, denn ich habe 4 Interviews geführt, als wir unsere Freunde in Hepple, und zwar die Hepple Destilleie oder vormals Moorland Distillers, besucht haben in England. Da habe ich mir 5 Personen und extrem interessante Charaktere stecken hinter diesem Gin. Das ist auch eine ziemlich schräge Geschichte. 4 davon habe ich erwischt, die habe ich interviewt und heute starten wir gleich mit dem ersten Interview. Also die eigentliche Idee vom Tender Spirits Podcast ist, dass wir in Deutsch sprechen. Aber, wie das nun mal so ist, wenn der Interviewpartner nur Englisch spricht, dann muss man auch mit meinem oder unserem schlechten Englisch auskommen. Deswegen sind die nächsten 4 Episoden in Englisch. Und zwar stellen wir Ihnen die 4 von den 5 Machern von Hepple Gin vor. Das ist sehr interessant, die sind alle sehr unterschiedlich. Ich starte mit Walter Riddle. Dem gehört dieses wahnsinnig tolle Anwesen, wo der Wachholder wächst und die Destille steht und der sich, also auf der einen Seite ist er ein riesen Schafzüchter, dann kümmert er sich um dieses riesen Anwesen. Er ist tatsächlich jetzt muss ich nachgucken, ich hätte es googeln müssen, 17. Baroness von Riddle, also sozusagen die höchste Form des niedrigsten Adels in England, habe ich gelernt. Er sagt ganz lässig, habe ich gekauft, meine Verwandten 1600 oder so. Da mussten wir nach Kanada und dann haben die 2000 Silberpennies hingeschmissen und schon hatten wir einen Titel, weil die englische Krone nach Kanada musste. Und ein sehr sympathischer Mensch, was mir extrem gut gefällt, ist diese Idee, dass er da extrem viel für den Umweltschutz macht und einfach seine Mission ist, diesen wahnsinnig tollen Landstrich vor Schottland zu schützen und toll zu kultivieren, und da macht er sich viele Gedanken und ich finde es ein unglaublich charmanter Typ und es ist wahrscheinlich wahnsinnig tolles Englisch, was jetzt gesprochen wird, also nicht von mir natürlich, sondern von Walter, Sir, Baroness, wie auch immer, von dem lieben Walter. Viel Spaß wünsche ich bei dem Interview mit Walter Riddle. Cheers.
Cheers.
Walter.
Cheers, Jörg.
Cheers.
Welcome to the Holy of Holies.
So it's British time. It's 5 minutes past 10 in the morning.
Great, so it's Martini time.
It is. Cheers.
Cheers.
We thought about faking it, but then we decided we don't do it. We don't fake things here.
It's so much better when it's not fake.
It is.
That's great. That is an amateur making a martini for one of the great bartenders of the world.
No.
But it's simple.
It's very good.
40 anti-clockwise turns.
Yeah, Nick told you, huh?
Nick told me.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here with Walter Riddle, and I have to say he's my host since, I don't know, 8 hours, or when we arrived, I don't know.
Probably, yeah, just over.
And so we are here at I call it the Hepple Mansion. I'm not sure that's the right thing, because it's technically a different house next to the distillery.
Do you have to have ghosts in a mansion?
Is it mansion? What's the...
I think it probably is. It could be a hall. It could be a mansion or hall. It's always just a little cottage.
Yeah?
It's whatever you have in your imagination.
I can see it. And so you brought us over to have a look at Hepple, because we are super proud to import it to Germany and spread the love for Hepple. But I was always curious to understand what this really is, because I think it's not that easy to understand. But I really appreciate what I saw the last day. Technically, Hepple is a gin, and you are one of 5 people behind the gin.
One of 5.
Yeah.
I mean, Hepple technically, I suppose...
It's the Hepple 5.
It's the Hepple 5. The gang of 5. Very different people, as you know. And there's me on the land. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a great spirits expert. But what I'm incredibly lucky to have is some of the great experts in spirits making, alongside one of the great places to grow juniper in England. And Hepple, no one would have heard of it. It's a tiny, tiny place in the north of England, one of the most wild and empty places in this very crowded island. And juniper still grows here. So for me, I'm the juniper grower.
Yeah.
And then we have to pass it to someone who knows more about how to catch it at its freshest and take it to the distillery and then catch it into the spirit.
So why did 5 people choose to create Hepple?
It's funny.
You told me a little bit about the story. I know a little bit already, but
I think what you find when you meet them, I think you find idealism. I think you find complete madcap idealism, unfettered by commerciality or the need to try to make money, but people who we're a little old now. We've got into our 30s and 40s and sometimes 50s in case of Nick, and we all want to do something that is right. And is right for the spirit that we're making. So we've never met. We didn't meet one another before we all came together in 2014.
Really, you never met?
No.
I mean, you know one.
Val was my oldest friend. Val spent time up here when he was young, and we used to go off behind the juniper bushes and smoke cigarettes. And that was what we knew them for. We knew that there's a place where you could hide from your parents.
So we can expect a distiller smoker's cat for juniper smokers. I like that. So just to catch up, so who are the 5 doing it?
So the 5 are
the Hepple 5.
The 5 working from the ground up.
Yeah.
I'm on the soil. Val is one of the great chefs, one of the great foraging chefs in the UK, and he assembled the group together. He picks the juniper, takes it to the distillery. Cairbre Hill, one of the innovators behind the distilling technique that we have, changed the distillation process. Chris Garden, one of the top distillers in the UK, if not the top distiller on small stills, because he was the distiller at Sipsmith. And before Sipsmith, there was not any great classic traditional...
They brought it back.
They brought it back.
Yeah.
And then we have the titan of the palate, which is Nick Strangeway, who with Val brings the spirit into the right shape for cocktail making. So that's the 5. There's me on the land, Val on the picking, Chris distilling with Cairbre as the distiller, process man, and Nick, who has, with Val, brought the spirit to life. So it's a large group, but if you're trying to carry that flavor completely from the land and you want to control it all and understand how it grows best and how you keep it at its freshest, you've got to have that number of people. So it's a confusing story.
It is. I didn't get it in the beginning. Yeah. Now I get it because I've been here. I saw everything, and it's really. So as you said, I understood you are the kind of soil of the.
I'm the dirty soil.
You're the dirty soil.
I'm the mess.
Yeah, you're the mess.
On the ground.
Because yesterday we had an amazing walk through all these hills and moorland, and you showed us the areas where where your juniper grows.
It's a lovely, lucky place for me to live because it's right on the border with Scotland. It's empty of people. There's never been much farming here. What farming there has been very gentle. And juniper only grows in England where other uses for the land has not happened. So you find it in scrubland, wasteland, wildland. And that's why Hepple is special for people who come and visit as well, because you sort of feel human again, I think, because we're so surrounded by people and cars and technology.
It's a totally disconnect here. I have no cell phone connection for one day. I have there's a very kind of weak Wi-Fi. I can get it one from time to time. It's very disconnecting.
But what are you reconnecting with, Jörg?
It's interesting. You know, when you stay in your house in the morning, you wake up, you just hear birds. And it's very. Yesterday, the walk I really liked. I think it's good. It's a really. I grew up on the countryside, so this is something I really. And I think you told me that's your story as well, because you did something else. You lived a long time in London. You moved to the West, and now you're back in Hepple.
I grew up in this house. Yeah. I grew up in those burns and the streams and rivers out there, and I always felt happy here. But I would work or be educated elsewhere. And so it was only 4 years ago that I moved back with my family.
Only 4 years?
Yeah.
Looks so
Well, we've been here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. So we sort of there's a mess of the Riddle family and all the drawers and all the.
So you didn't read all the books about your grandfather? Okay.
But it's a place where I always used to come to escape some of the noise of the world, and I think it's lovely bringing people, because everyone who comes here and gets Hepple at the product. Connects with the place outside, and they feel comfortable and at home, and they find their own thing to connect with. But it's the point is outside. The point is what you'll see later, and just to have that space to breathe and think, which gave us the opportunity to completely rethink the way that we were going to distill. We're out of the classic, thinking about it from a gin perspective. We are out of the traditional area to make gin. We're not in a port. We're not in Plymouth. We're not in London. We've got more of a whiskey mentality. We're not in the Black Forest.
Sorry, I'm kidding. I have to do that as a joke.
So we could break all the rules, really, about how to do it traditionally. But there's something, you can break the rules, but you can still be traditional. You can still try to be a little classic by being drawn by that ancient thing, which is nature. And the idea behind the company was, let's use the most precise, meticulous, modern systems, but be drawn by nature. And that's what these guys, Weil in particular, is so good at. He's got a compass for which way flavor resonates best out there. And then the challenge is, how do you bring it in here? And that's where you have to go beyond traditional distilling.
So your idea, hopefully I describe it right, but your idea for Hepple is doing classic gin, lots of juniper, but with a modern twist.
Completely. Yeah. It's having to make a classic gin, you rebuild it, and you rebuild it from the soil up. And you say, I need to know where my flavor grows. I need to watch it. I need to pick it at the right moment. I need to be near it so that when I distill it, when Chris distills it, it's not days and days old, it's not months old. It's like it's still beating, it's still alive.
You brought it from there to
it's there. Just 400 yards, 400 meters, 500 meters. So we're not doing it like that because it's local, because it's just out there. It's a reflection of it's not a reflection of our environment. It's a reflection of the freshness that we need. That's important, but we're not getting hooked up about local. We're getting hooked on juniper, which is the core of that ancient spirit, which is gin, and then having to take a very modern approach to it. And it's fascinating talking to Weil, because he talks of how the kitchen has modernized over the last 20 years, but in the distilling world, we're very, very, particularly in England, I think, we're very focused on tradition. And the way it's been done for hundreds of years is the right way to do it. You won't trust the spirit unless it's been done in the traditional way. But that's not true of the kitchen. There's extraordinary varieties of sous vide systems and slow cooked systems and things that Val understands better than me. That's the ethic that we wanted to bring and combine with that business of finding it fresh in the wild. There's two pieces of it.
Yeah, when I started to understand what Hepple is, how it's done, because so first of all, I liked the taste. I tried it. I was like, boom. Then I know the people. So I know Nick, very long time, and I knew when Nick was doing it, it can't be like marketing BS. It must be something good.
Well, this is why it's so important that you're here.
Yeah.
It's so amazing that you were interested in the first instance. Huge gratitude to you for that. But you could open up every cupboard in this place. You can invest. You can ask all the questions.
And there's a lot.
What did you find? Some skeletons. But it's really important for us not to be full of marketing bullshit. And this is made for people who are tired of all the bullshit, and who don't mind a long story, who don't mind complexity, because they've heard all the cheap, quick stories in the world. And, it's made for Nick's friends and for you and for people who've been in the industry and
What I really buy is, I buy, after being here and understand who you guys are, I buy that it's not about making money. Because I can see,
isn't.
I mean, today at the breakfast we had this, like, I think you own, like, what do you say, a few thousand sheeps, and now they get kids, so it's a few thousand more and whatever, and you have other things to do, you have your thing running here. Nick is totally, I know he's busy. Weil is an amazing famous chef, so I buy that it's not about, I think you guys teamed up to do something special.
But I think it's the only route to ever hoping to make money in this very, very crowded world.
Yeah.
Is making lots of decisions that short-term hurt you.
Yeah.
And taking the long route if need be. I mean, Chris will tell you.
Yeah.
He spends 5 times longer making this gin than a conventional gin, and that's forgetting all the stuff that's done on the outside. It's a labor of love, but that's what people feel, I think, when they taste this. I think they can. I'm so impressed by palate. And I never understood it before, but this thing in your mouth can detect bullshit like nothing up here can. It's fascinating.
No, it's about the taste. I mean, liquor is about the taste. I mean, you can love the people behind, but finally it's about what you drink. And I think I like it. It's classic. For me, it's a really interesting, I mean, it's a perfect 10 a.m. Martini.
Well, who wouldn't?
Yeah, I like it. So just to give you a little, Chris yesterday showed us around on how you do the gin, and your idea is to do a classic, and correct me if I'm wrong, copper still one-shot distillation first. And then your idea is to pick mostly here the green juniper, but also something like Douglas fir is coming from here. It's a kind of, how you call that, what's needle?
It's the needles, yeah.
And
that gives the citric balance.
Yeah.
Because it's got this extraordinary melon, sort of ripe melon, grapefruity taste, hasn't it?
It is.
Oh, it's amazing.
So first you have this classic copper still one-shot distillation, and then you do 2 more things, which is more, as you explained, like Weil's home base, more this like creative, how modern kitchen also do maybe cooking is like you do one type of distillation which is in a vacuum still. So you found out that if you use different methods of distillation, the classic one, but also the modern techniques to get different aromas from juniper.
Quite, exactly.
So, and for the vacuum, you take the juniper fresh from here because it must be fresh as possible. But also, as we talked yesterday, you buy 2 different types of juniper for the other thing because you just decided it's better quality. This is what you explained. It's not about being local for being local.
No.
It's about making good gin.
It's saying, what do you think a good gin consists of, taste-wise? Yeah. And people would say, it must be smooth.
Yeah.
So you have to have the contact with the copper. You can't deal with the alcohol any other way. You need to smooth the alcohol through copper. Tick. It needs to be fresh. It needs to be crisp, like a first icicle breaking. That's where you use the vacuum distillation, and that keeps the fresh taste fresh because you're not cooking. And then you want that very long flavor profile on your palate that bounces. It's juniper, and it just gradually dies away. And that's what you get from the perfume industry supercritical technique. That's the third technique. And I can taste it now. I haven't had a sip for a while, but I can taste that juniper just gradually dying away on my palate. And equally, what Nick has told me, what Nick has explained to me is that if you're making a complex gin cocktail, one perhaps with a lot of heavy flavors like a Negroni with Campari, you need the juniper to stand up and not be defeated by the Campari. And that third system gives you the backbone for the juniper in a way that copper or vacuum can't.
So the critical extraction where you put lots of pressure on this very little juniper. He told me like you distill, what did he say, 800 or 600 or 1 kilo, around about that, of juniper. And at the end of 8 hours, it's coming out such an 10 mil.
Yeah.
So 800 grams is 10 mil of.
That's right.
And this is also why there's no London dry gin on Hepple, because technically the law says if you add something oily, like this essence of juniper, you cannot say any longer it's London dry.
And am I right in saying, you'd know better than me, but I think if you, one shot gin through copper is London dry gin. We start with London dry gin.
You do London dry gin first, and then
we go down a quality.
Yeah.
By vacuum distillation, that becomes distilled gin.
Yeah.
And then we go down another level.
Yeah.
So we can't even call ourselves distilled gin because we add the
then
supercritical.
you add some oily.
So we're just Hepple gin.
Okay.
There's nothing more to the brand.
So you go down.
We've gone down into the basement, 2 levels.
Coming from the ground.
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly. Back to the ground, I suppose. Yeah. But again, it's because we don't care about the conventions of the
wine.
gin
It's
market.
okay. But it's the same in wine. A long time ago,
Yeah.
there used to be this like super Tuscanis who changed. They don't care about the law, and so they didn't want to be the classic. But then they became super famous because of. It's about taste. It's not about translation. It's not about what are the rules.
And my old dad he introduced me to this drink, the Martini.
At which age?
At a young age.
Come on, give it to me.
We used to have it on the beach.
Where's the beach here?
Yeah, we used to travel for miles.
Okay.
And the first drink we'd have on the beach would be a gin martini.
On the beach. That would be the last drink I would have on the beach.
A traveling martini is a very important thing.
Tom is laughing.
And so I think he's up there somewhere saying, is your martini, don't have too many, but is your martini the best you can possibly make it? Is it as good as the martinis that we used to have on the beach?
Yeah.
Dad, it's better than the martinis we used to have on the beach.
Martinis on the beach is something very unusual I've never heard. Well, especially when it comes to Britain. That's something very
We're going to go and have a mobile. It's very important for us to have mobile martinis. And we're going to go to the highest point of the hill up there and have a martini.
You know, I love alliterations. If you say mobile martinis, my head is starting to. I can see it. I can see towards. I see it now.
I think for me, Hepple, can I go back to your first question?
Yes, please.
What's the point?
Yeah.
And I think we all work really hard. We're obsessives.
Yeah.
You know, you're an obsessive.
Yeah.
The people I've met that you work with, they are obsessively hard workers. They get up at silly times in the morning to take planes to distant distilleries in the middle of nowhere to understand what's really going on. The people who are staying here, they've traveled for miles. We all get up and behave in an absurdly obsessive way. We plant juniper, we pull the juniper berries out from this scratchy bush. It's hard to do what we do because we care about it. And then there's a moment when the clouds part and you can have a moment of fun, a moment of enjoyment, what it's all about. And you invented this word, to hepple.
Yeah.
When are you heppling?
It's heppling.
When you're heppling, that's when you're heppling. It's when the clouds are parted, you've had a moment. That's why for me, this is a drink that's heppling. Because 10:10 in the morning, you don't really deserve it. Do you deserve it? Maybe you do deserve it, actually.
But today's a hard day.
It's a hard day. Exactly.
We need to do a long walk.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, cheers. I already finished it. I'm sorry. It was too good.
There's another one.
Your dad should be proud. So you started in 2014? No, the distillery started. When did you start?
We had the idea back in 2014. The still was made at Müller in Germany, southwest Germany. The vacuum still was made in Switzerland at the same time. We had a supercritical system made in America at the same time. So we had our license given to us in 2015. And we had to scale up. We'd done a lot of work. Nick had done a lot of work with Weil down in London.
How much liquor is wasted to... Have you measured it?
It goes up in flames. I don't know whether I should be admitting this on camera.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
But we throw a lot.
It's officially never done.
This is not. No, it's all disposed of in a very hygienic, correct way, which it is. But we flare off a lot of heads and tails.
Yeah, Chris taught me to understand also this new techniques. Vacuum. It's totally, he's never kind of done before.
Yeah.
So you need to try and error, taste, get better, try and error.
We've kept it. We've kept the full archive of the research, and it's on the top.
Mistake 2,
mistake 2,
mistake 3,
mistake 526.
Yeah.
And Val and Nick are great. They've got great palates, as you know, but it took them. Once we scaled up, it took an extra 6 months, but they'd spent a year working on the separate elements of the separate distillates and the extracts. So to scale up took 6 months, but it was a year before. So all the different varieties of where we felt we were getting close, or they thought they were getting close, is on the top shelf. There's hundreds and hundreds.
Nice. So you started 2015, and then we had a little chat yesterday. It's still quite local. So you're near to the Scotch border. So you have a few activities going on in Scotch. I think you moved to the US. There's a few first countries bringing Hepple.
We've got some great, wonderful friends. Again, friends of Nick and Sean and Jack and Jim Meehan who've taken it. And
Jim Meehan took it.
Yeah, he's got
lovely.
PhD2's got it.
Yeah, I like.
We're so excited. You've got it. We've got some wonderful friends in Italy who were actually the first export market, and their slow food ethic is quite helpful. It fits really well with Hepple. Yeah. We exported to Copenhagen because Nick was living there. Yeah. And again, their food scene's very Hepple-y. So it's Hepple-y. In Denmark.
It fits totally. They have all the restaurants doing the technique, like vacuum. This is just, for me, a Hepple is a gin. There's a few occasions where I think it's super strong, just as like a strong classic juniper, which is good for a classic bar, or just like classic gin cocktails. But also, I see it totally, and this is also what we try to address in very good restaurants. For me, it's a foodie gin.
It's a foodie gin.
In a nice way, because of all what you guys do and how it's done with your property here, taking it fresh and having Weil, who's into cooking, and the technique you use. For me, it's a 100% foodie gin. Very different approach. Normally you have all this, like, as you told me, coming from the liquor world, normally everybody's doing this classic way of this is how liquor should be, but this is something different, because for me it's more like coming from a food and kitchen and taste approach.
It's for flavor junkies. Yeah. It's for food.
I like
maniacs.
that.
It's for flavor junkies. It's made by flavor junkies.
Mobile Martinis, flavor junkies. We need a few hashtags. We have to create a few hashtags here.
But it really is. It's made by flavor junkies, for food maniacs and flavor maniacs. And you think there aren't a lot of them out there, but there's a lot of people who are like that. There's a lot of people who care a lot about flavor, who will just dive behind the story to understand it. And so that's why it really works with those restaurants who spend a lot of time on where do they find their ingredients, how do they keep it at its best. It's the same ethic.
And you just created something. I don't know if it's still kind of a test. I tried it. I know we have a few bottles in Germany. It's called Douglas Fir. You do something second, which is I think it's the same idea. You call it a flavored vodka.
We call it a flavored vodka because
legalations.
That's what they have. That's what you have to do. Yeah. But exactly, it's
also growing here. It's all over.
It's growing all over the place here. And I spent the whole of last summer up the tree, cutting the branches. So you're talking to the soil man. So I had to climb up from the soil and cut the branches. It uses a huge quantity of needles. So we've got loads of trees, so that's fine. And it's a celebration of that one ingredient. Mm-hmm. And so again, it's taking that one ingredient, like the juniper, putting it through the 3 different systems. Mm-hmm. So you have the smoothness from the copper, you have this, it's amazing, Douglas, it produces citric acid in its needles. Citric acid, I think I'm right in saying, it degrades very quickly with heat. Mm-hmm. So that's why most of it goes through the vacuum still. Mm-hmm. Then we found that when we put it through the supercritical system, it is amazing. It produces a very, very small yield. The yield of the juniper is about 2% of the weight. The yield of the Douglas fir is 0.5% of the weight. But the intensity is astonishing. So we found that we really, to get this drink right, we had to use the supercritical system. And it, as you said earlier, it's used in the gin. So we knew how fantastic it was when you cold distill it. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very tricky customer. It takes picking it at the right time of the year. You pick it too early, it's not right. You pick it after middle of August, it's not right. And then you need to cure it almost by drying it in just the right way for a day. Then you need to take the needles off, strip the needles, you get any part of that wrong, it just tastes really bad. And it took us a long time to hit it absolutely right. But it needed to be a drink by itself. We found that it needed the supercritical system to really add the weight behind it. So it's perfect for us because we're always trying to explain how we're making the gin. This is not taking the complexity of the gin in terms of ingredients. It's just taking one ingredient and putting it through the triple technique of the distillery.
Is there more ingredients coming from the field here or for the gin?
There's lots of things out there that we're keen to experiment with.
For the future. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Lots of exciting things, but we're not just trying to take everything that could be available and just stick it through and say, there you are. Nick and Val, they're perfectionists, they're idealists. So we want to make sure that anything that everyone ever tastes from Hepple is delicious.
Yeah.
We're not just going to show you all the different varieties just for the sake of it. We want to make sure that everything is a perfect product.
Yeah, we are super proud to help you a little bit to show the love in Germany, because I think it's the two products I've tasted. They are, I think, something really special and a great quality. And I think it's, as you explained, people need to understand it. It takes time a little bit, but I think this is the way it is.
Well, I'm so pleased that you're here.
Yeah, pleasure. Okay, so I think now we should
get
maybe head back to. I'm not sure if we have another.
Should we have another?
No, not in the morning. Okay, cool. Walter, thanks a lot. I maybe catch up with Chris and ask him for a few questions about how all the. I will steal all the.
Get all the geeky stuff from him.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot.
Geek head.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers.